The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
Since 1954, this is Point of View, the world record-holding public affairs program produced at the studios of WDEF-TV Chattanooga and with underwriting community support.
Hello, I'm Maurice Lewis, and welcome to this edition of Point of View. We'll be looking at the effects of women in business in Hamilton County. We'll talk about the lingering gun violence in Hamilton County, and also we'll check in with Deacon Blues. And to wrap up our segment, we'd like to welcome a new television anchor here at WDEF. Her name is Kay Blevins. But first, here is Vincent Phipps and Jasmine Holland.
Thank you, Maurice. Let's meet our guests to discuss the impact that women are having in Chattanooga as small business owners. Let's meet Jennifer Hoff, who is the president of Sky Strategies. We also have Maria Knoll, who is the director for diversity and inclusion with our very own Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce. And we have Holly Ashley, who is the executive director for the Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute. Thank you for joining us, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Let's dive right in. Let's start with you, Maria. As director of our chamber, what is it that our Chattanooga Chamber is doing to be supportive of female-owned businesses in Hamilton County?
We work with women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses to help them get contracts with a lot of our major employers.
Okay.
So if you are a supplier or a contractor or a professional firm, you'll come to us to find out ways that you can get contracts with companies like Erlanger, UTC, TVA, City of Chattanooga, and others.
Gotcha. So a one-stop shop for female business owners in Chattanooga.
Exactly.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Well, Holly, what is it that your institution is doing to be supportive of women in terms of if they are just getting started out, the entrepreneurs, maybe the stay-at-home mom that wants to start her own business? What are you all doing to be supportive to go out and seek those women?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit membership organization for women who want to develop their leadership skills. And when you talk about specifically women who want to start their own businesses, one of the best values we offer is a huge network of pretty powerful women in the community. We're talking about other business owners, we're talking about executive women who are working in huge corporations. And that network is very important when business owners are looking to bring on new clients, when they're looking for funding for their business, or they're just trying to grow their network in general.
Gotcha. Okay.
What would be the best way to get that information? Would you just go to CWLI.com and then reach out to you specifically?
Right, CWLI.org. We have over 80 events a year, from networking to training workshops, and about 670 members to network with.
Wow.
Excellent. I have a question for you, Jennifer. Now, being a grant writer, I found out from our very own Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce website that $1.5 million is the average annual revenue for a female business owner. In Chattanooga, not that in Chattanooga. Jennifer, what are the things that women need to know about if they're trying to get some funding or some initial capital to start their dream?
Well, you know, as a small business owner, I actually started my company without any financing. I just kind of put my faith out there that it could happen.
Gotcha. So you were grassroots, literally.
I was grassroots. But for women out there interested in starting a business, there's a lot of resources through the Chamber, through the Small Business Administration, loans that you can get that you can then pay down as you grow your company. Because when you're starting a company, you really do have to take a risk. You have to be willing to step out there and follow your dream, and you need that financing to have that ability often to launch a company and be successful. If you try to start slow and you don't secure that financing, you can very easily fail with your company because you have cash flow issues. So the Small Business Administration, many workshops that the Chamber offers that are very helpful to help small business owners.
Gotcha. Excellent. I recently found out that 85% of our elected officials are male, and that almost 90% of business owners in Chattanooga are male. And I'm looking at the growth of women business owners. My mom was an entrepreneur. My second mom drives around the Ladybug cars, entrepreneur. My grandmother was the first person of color to own her own cosmetology. So I was raised around some kick-butt entrepreneurial women. But what is it that we need to do as a community to embrace and bridge that gap for those female business owners here in Hamilton County?
I would almost say that those two statistics are connected. Women are underrepresented leadership roles within corporations, within the political arena, but more and more women are starting their own businesses. And I think it's because women are saying, I have the skills, I have what it takes to run my own business. If I'm not going to make it in the corporate world and be able to climb that ladder, because less than 5% of corporate CEOs are women, then they'll just start their own business. So I think that they need support, and especially in funding. We need to have more women represented in venture capital firms so that they will in turn invest in other women who are running their own businesses.
One question that I have is, I saw a statistic on Forbes article that men typically are younger when they start having their own businesses and women start to be older. How can we get women at a younger age to start their businesses? As you said just earlier, that if they can't climb that corporate ladder, then they'll start their own business. Well, that's sometimes a little bit too late. You're older, you know, will you have the funds for those type of things? How are we going to outreach to the younger community to start this?
Well, I think one of the things that's happening right now, I attended recently a women's entrepreneurial conference where nearly 400 women were there. The majority of the women were young women.
Great.
A lot of them were entrepreneurs or those who were trying to become
entrepreneurs. And for our Chattanooga audience, what are we constituting as young? What age range?
I'd say young would be anywhere between 18 and say 30, 35.
Wow, yeah.
So, you know,
Notice the only guy asked about age with a bunch of women.
Well, as a woman, I would say young is 50, 60, any age. But when we think about a lot of the young women that were coming together, trying to learn what they could in terms of what the resources were out there, how to support other women, how to become mentored by women, those are some of the things that they're doing themselves. I think supporting organizations that support other women, events that support women, seminars, and also buying from those women is good. You also have programs that are in the high schools. That are trying to train young women in terms of becoming entrepreneurs. And as a growing entrepreneurial community, we've got a lot of resources out there that are there to support them. So I think just helping to fund, support, recognize, and provide information out to young women who are interested in entrepreneurship, that's one way you can help.
And I will say we're really lucky in Chattanooga to have such a strong network of really strong females through CWLI that are more than happy to mentor and provide support. So I think women have to be able to have that confidence that they can make it happen. Like for 10 years I thought of starting my company. You finally jump in and you just have to reach out and find that support network. And they'll get you through.
We have a couple of minutes left, and I have a question for all three of you ladies. The Tennessean had just identified that Chattanooga is the second most popular city in the state of Tennessee to start a small business, second only to Nashville, Tennessee. Considering that our Chattanooga Chamber just won Chamber of the Year for the nation, and looking at that statistic, I want to know, and this is playing devil's advocate, the only guy, if I'm a male, what are the things I should be aware of if I'm wanting to promote or to patronize a woman business? What are the things I need to do to be supportive or to be aware of?
I was going to say, well, the Chamber has a comprehensive listing of all businesses who are members. But I'll let Maria talk about the network of...
well, we've got, with our Chamber councils, we have a network of resources for women. So just actually join the Chamber or come to any Chamber event because our resources are open to anyone, and then you can find out how to support your business.
Gotcha. We have about 30 seconds remaining. What are any final thoughts you can share about what you want the world to know, especially the Chattanooga audience, about female business owners right here in Chattanooga?
I would encourage women, if they think that they have a solid business plan and they have something to sell, to go for it and to not be as risk adverse as women have typically been, but just go for it. Tell someone your idea and try to make it happen.
And if you don't have a solid business plan, seek the resources that can help you get a solid business plan.
And do both of your organizations have those resources for them?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
We do.
Thank you all for joining us. This has been very insightful. I appreciate you all taking the time. So thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Ashley, for being here. You all been wonderful. Holly, Nancy, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all being here for taking the time. Thank you. We have an all-star team of women business owners here in Chattanooga.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. In our next segment, we're going to look at the lingering effects of gun violence here in Hamilton County, when Point of View continues.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
We've seen the headlines. They come over and over and over again. Gun violence in Chattanooga. It's a headline, but behind every headline, there are people and there are effects of gun violence. We want to talk about that this afternoon on our program. We want to welcome Louise Bell and welcome Vanessa Suttles. And also Captain Glenn Scruggs, you're here from the Chattanooga Police Department.
Yes, sir.
But we want to start with my co-host here today, D'Angelo Scruggs. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the group here.
Yeah.
I want to start with you. What's the story? What happened with you? What changed your life?
My son got killed May the 10th of 2016. It was very hardship on me. He was my only son, and it was just a big pain in my life, you know, and I had to learn to, you know, just open up the Bible and ask God, you know, to forgive, you know, bring to my heart to bring peace within his killers.
So does the pain ever go away?
No, because you know, it might be like one day I might wake up feeling okay, and the next day it's just emotional, you know.
And let's talk about the emotion. When you heard that someone had taken your son's life, what was your first reaction? To pray for them or to do something?
My first reaction was to do something. I had got a phone call. I was in my schoolwork, and I heard the you know, the sound, but I thought maybe it was firecrackers and stuff. So when I got the phone call, I wanted to go down there where he was at, but instead I saw my baby's mother, my last grandbaby mother, down there and stuff. So someone had came, you know, knocking on my door. I went to she took me to Erlanger. And as I was walking into Erlanger doors, and by me done worked in a hospital before, I had heard cold blue. And right then and there, it's like my son came to me and let me know he wasn't going to make it.
You know, the thought of making it, D'Angelo, we want to just come to you for a second, Louise. You know what it's like to not only hear a gunshot, but to actually be shot.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to sound stupid to ask what was that like, but your thoughts on being a victim.
Well, the day I actually was shot, I actually experienced death. I felt very cold and scared. I knew I wasn't going to make it. I told the ambulance driver that I wasn't going to make it, which thankfully, by the grace of God, he told me that I would, and I did. But it was a very scary experience. It was nothing I would ever want to relive. I hate that I had to live through it, but thank God I did, but I would never want to live through it again.
Ms. Suttles, what have you learned from that experience? I mean, besides what it's like being shot, what have you learned about yourself, about people?
To always have faith and to make sure I stay, focused and be blessed and look out for others. So that taught me to actually want to be that person that someone else needs, because I was given a second chance, so I would always want to give someone else a second chance.
Wow.
And I thank God for that. So
Ms. Bell said that she actually heard the shots. How close were you to the situation? I mean, because you were shot in the situation, but did you hear it going before it?
I was face to face with the people that shot me. We were actually face to face. There were 7 juveniles that day, and we were in eyesight of each other.
If you had audience with those juveniles today, what would you say to them?
I forgive you.
Wow. What about you, Ms. Bell?
I forgive him.
Well, forgiving is one thing. Catching him and putting him in jail for as long as is humanly possible, that's part of the job of law enforcement. And Captain Scruggs, you are part of that violent crime unit. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing and how do you see the progress or lack of progress in reducing gang and other violence?
Well, one thing, Chattanooga has about 177,000 residents, okay? There's a very small percentage of folks that are involved in that kind of behavior. There's about 2% of our population that's pushing and driving this violent crime. And what we're doing as a department is we're focusing, we're using directed enforcement on those guys that are driving this violence. And currently, we're putting together 3 teams. We're putting together a gun team, a gang unit, and a rapid response team to directly impact those situations.
You know, I would have to ask the question because we've gone through the Violence Reduction Act and people were not satisfied with its ability to reduce gun violence. What makes you optimistic that this is going to work?
Mainly because we're focusing out all of our efforts, at least the lion's share of our efforts, on the people that are involved directly with this crime. We're not going to go after broad groups. We're going to go after guy 1, guy 2, the people that are driving this violence. The community knows who these people are. We know who these people are. And now it's our job to build cases against these people successfully.
How, I'm sorry.
No.
How are those two, you said the gun violence and the gangs, how much overlap is there between the two, or not really?
Over the last 4 years, we've checked all our data. We've looked through all of our incident reports. We've done a lot of number crunching. And over the last 4 years, what we've deduced is that 51% of our homicides are directly related to gang membership. And whether they be the victim or the suspect, 51% of the homicides are directly attributed to gang members.
Wow.
56% of our non-lethal shooting incidents are attributed to gang members. So if we can nip that small, less than 2% of our population in the bud, if we can nip that, we can create tremendous impact within our community.
What do you want the police department to do, and what do you want other parents to do? Because these kids they're not all kids, they're grown
young
men.
People. Yes, sir,
they're grown men. But what do you want their parents and their loved ones to do?
You know,
we only have less than 2 minutes.
Okay, just keep talking to them, let them know, that's not the right way to do it and stuff. Now, my son was in a game, and I don't sugarcoat that, but he didn't bring that around my house. I didn't tolerate with that. And I have family members that's in gang. They don't come to my house. I would not tolerate with that.
What about you,
Ms. Suttles?
To stay focused and make sure that you try to let them know it doesn't just affect who you are as being a gang member. You are affecting someone else's life, and it has a very bad impact on daily living.
You know, both of you gentlemen, we're all, are you a veteran?
No, sir.
Okay, well, D'Angelo and I are veterans. You've been in combat and you know very well what can happen of the serious damage that guns do. And when you hear from a mother and you hear from another woman who have been victims, how does it make you feel? We have less than 30 seconds to go.
Oh, it's a devastating feeling, and I'm so sorry that those things have happened to you. I think about my own experiences, and I can only imagine how you yourself, who having been shot and having to recover from that, and just the psychological challenge that puts on you. So my heart goes out to you both, and thank you for being here on the show.
Thank you. And one of the interesting things that we want to remind our viewers, and thank you all for being with us today, is post-traumatic stress disorder is not just for veterans. There are our young people in our cities that have witnessed these violent acts, and they need help. They need treatment. So, D'Angelo, you want to talk about what's coming up in the next section?
WDEF will welcome new news anchor Kay Blevins when Point of View continues.
You make me wear my bike helmet. You taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Thank you very much for staying with us for this edition of Point of View. We'd like to roll out the welcome mat. Kay Blevins, you're here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. D'Angelo Jelks, we give her a big, warm welcome as a news anchor. not a new person with news, but a new news anchor here on Channel 12.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the transition. You're back in the business.
Yes, so I worked on television for around a decade here in Chattanooga and decided to take a little bit of time off and worked in public relations. So now I am back on TV, and I've always wanted to be a morning anchor, so it worked out perfectly, and I'm so thrilled to be here.
You have the ability to talk about our business from two different perspectives. That fine line, or the chasm that separates news from public affairs. Tell us a little bit about walking on both sides of that aisle.
Well, it can be difficult at times, and you know, you try as a news anchor to be very neutral, but you also like to be very fair and accurate and try to do the right thing and just be there and listen to folks as they tell their story.
And being the conveyor of the story is the whole thing.
Yes, yeah.
So you say you always wanted to be a news anchor?
Yes.
So like as a kid, you were like, I want to grow up to be a news anchor.
Well, kind of. I had a professor in college. Her name was Professor Felicia McGee-Helt. She's at UTC.
Still there?
Yes, still
Wow.
there. Still
Okay.
there. She was a college professor of mine. And when I was there, she helped me get a job at a local station here in town. And after that, 6 months later, I was on air.
You were hooked.
Yes.
You know,
and
it's
so
interesting you mentioned UTC because our predecessor, the gentleman who kept this program alive for more than 44 years, our beloved Booker T. Scruggs, and you knew him when he was there?
Yes, he was there. He's a wonderful professor and did so much for the community. It's very heartbreaking to know that he passed. Yes.
When you look at your career, when you sit at the anchor desk and you're talking about things that affect people, and now you have children.
Yes.
The stories have a different impact for you?
They do. I think as you get children and you realize, you know, how much they mean to you and how much they mean to the community, you really want to make a difference in this community for their future. You know, you want all the children to grow up and just know that this is a great community and this is the place where they need to grow up and just make it flourish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what?
I don't know, like I'm just listening to it and I think about what she's saying and I can relate it to my own children.
That's what I was hoping that you would go to because you have great kids.
Yes, sir. You know, just thinking about that and how I would like to make Chattanooga and the world just a better place. You know, I think Eleanor Roosevelt said she'd like to be, I'd rather light a single candle than roll over and curse the darkness. And I guess by doing this, by presenting the news, by putting things out there for people to discuss and be informed, that's exactly what you're doing.
Right. I've always said that I want to make a difference in the community, whatever I do. You know, I really want to make a difference.
In the minute that we have left, tell us, when are you on? So we want to make sure people can tune in.
Definitely. I am on Monday through Friday, and you'll find me at 5 a.m., 5 to 7 a.m., and then I do the noon show here at Channel 12. So, yeah, super exciting.
Recently, there was a piece that you guys aired on the morning show, and it was all about the blues. And you have a gentleman by the name of Deacon Blues. Tell us a little bit about that, and we'll watch that as the show goes out.
He is super talented. Working with these kids and just being a musician and teaching them the things he does, and you know, giving back to the community, because that's what he does also. It's so important, you know, that we all do that in our community, and it's a really blessing just to watch him do what he does.
I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and D'Angelo, always a pleasure, man. We'll look forward to it. Check out Deacon Blues, and we'll see you on the next edition of Point of View.
When these people started to make up the songs just like we did today, it was called the blues.
We do a Blues in the Schools program throughout this part of the country so that we can educate our youth about a music that's been around 3 centuries.
Some songs make you happy, some makes you sad.
Miss Dynasty. Oh, how did she die? Oh, how did she die?
We feel that the arts is value producing in our public schools, and therefore we are starting a program that will expose our children and our young people to the history of American music, which is really the history of the blues. The program today was structured to introduce the children to 3 things: what the blues was, where the blues came from, and what the instruments that were used in making the blues.
Like you're clapping your hands, now clap your hands.
These cool people came and they're talking about the blues and they can sing good, can play music good. And they told us how John died with his hammer in his hand.
John Henry fell over and died. But he died with his hammer in his hand, Lord, Lord. He died with his hammer in his hand. What'd he do? He died with his hammer in his hand, Lord, Lord. He died with his hammer in his hand. One of the things I'm going to tell you about music, it will help you in school. They found out, yeah, music makes your brain grow.
So we think it's extremely important to give these children exposure to music development so that they can develop their cognitive skills.
Are you having fun?
My whole teaching style comes basically from my mother, my father, and my aunt, who were all principals, librarians, and teachers in the Chattanooga public school system. So the pedagogy simply is that you give a child an objective learning lesson, you set a goal for that lesson, and you also have the child repeat what you're doing. So by repetition. And finally, a part of that pedagogy, you have the child demonstrate to you what you just taught them. Blues Chattanooga, the Bessie Smith Cultural Center, and the Songbirds Foundation. We're going to take music back into our communities and our schools in a small pilot program at first that will give after-school instruction in the musical arts to the kids in our communities. You must remember, a lot of the kids in the Chattanooga public schools come from traumatized communities and traumatized environments. And so music becomes a healing force. And not only does it enhance them intellectually, it gives them peace of mind.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.